For 5 years, I trusted the woman sleeping beside me. Then one evening, I noticed her turning her phone away from me. A few hours later, I discovered messages between her and her ex. By the end of that night, I had made a decision. I would not argue. I would not beg for an explanation. I would quietly remove myself from her life and leave the evidence behind. My name is Daniel. I am 27 years old, and I had been with my girlfriend Melissa for nearly 5 years. We had built what I believed was a strong relationship. We had survived financial problems, family arguments, stressful jobs, and all the ordinary difficulties that test a couple. Whenever something went wrong, we faced it together. That was why I believed we were different. I thought the difficult years had made us stronger. I imagined that one day we would look back at those struggles and feel proud because we had never abandoned each other. I was completely wrong. Before Melissa met me, she had dated a man named Ryan. They had been together for around 2 years, but their relationship ended long before Melissa and I started dating. She rarely mentioned him. When his name did come up, it was usually because she was telling an old story or answering something I had asked. She never appeared emotional about him. She never compared me to him. She never gave me any reason to believe that he still mattered. Because of that, I never saw Ryan as a threat. To me, he was simply someone from her past. But apparently, the past had never disappeared as completely as I believed. The first warning came on an ordinary evening. Melissa and I were sitting together on the sofa. The television was playing, but neither of us was paying much attention to it. She was scrolling through her phone while I was relaxing beside her. At first, everything seemed normal. Then, while typing a message, she tilted her phone slightly away from me. It was a small movement. So small that another person might not have noticed it. A few seconds later, she turned the screen back to its normal position. I told myself it meant nothing. Maybe she was changing the angle because of the light. Maybe she wanted to sit more comfortably. Maybe I was imagining a problem that did not exist. But several minutes later, she did it again. She opened a conversation, shifted her body, and positioned the screen where I could not see it. After sending the message, she relaxed and turned back. That evening, she repeated the same behavior 5 or 6 times. Whenever she opened one particular conversation, the phone moved away. Whenever she left that conversation, the screen became visible again. That was when I understood something important. She was not protecting her entire phone. She was protecting one conversation. Melissa had never been secretive with her messages before. We knew each other's passcodes. Sometimes she would ask me to answer a message while she was cooking or driving. She had never panicked when I picked up her phone. That sudden change made me uncomfortable. Still, I tried to find an innocent explanation. Perhaps she was arranging a surprise for me. Perhaps one of her friends had shared something private. Perhaps she was discussing a problem that had nothing to do with our relationship. I wanted one of those explanations to be true. But deep inside, I already knew something had changed. The following night, Melissa left her phone charging beside the bed while she went to take a shower. I stared at it for several seconds. I did not feel proud of what I was about to do. Looking through your partner's phone is not something that should become normal in a healthy relationship. But nothing about her recent behavior felt normal. I told myself I would check quickly. If I found nothing, I would feel guilty, put the phone back, and never do it again. I unlocked it using the passcode I had known for years. My hands were already shaking. I opened Instagram first because it was the application she used most. I checked her recent conversations. There were messages with friends, funny videos, reactions to photographs, and ordinary conversations. Nothing suspicious appeared. For a moment, I felt relieved. Maybe I had misunderstood everything. Maybe my imagination had created a problem because of one strange movement on the sofa. I almost placed the phone back. Then I opened her regular text messages. That was where I saw Ryan's name. His conversation was near the top of the list, which meant they had spoken recently. My stomach tightened. I opened it. At first, the messages looked harmless. Ryan had contacted her to ask how she was doing. Melissa had answered politely. Then he started talking about their old relationship. He reminded her of places they had visited and private jokes they once shared. Instead of ending the conversation, Melissa joined him. She began remembering those moments too. The tone slowly changed. The messages became warmer, more personal, more flirtatious. Ryan complimented her. Melissa accepted the attention. Then she started complimenting him in return. I kept scrolling, hoping to find the moment where she told him to stop. That moment never came. Eventually, Ryan told her he would be visiting our city. He said he wanted to meet her. Melissa agreed immediately. There was no hesitation, no mention of me, no suggestion that meeting an ex in secret might be inappropriate. She simply asked him when and where. I continued reading until I reached the messages they exchanged after meeting. Ryan wrote that he had enjoyed seeing her again. Then he suggested that they should repeat what had happened. Melissa replied that it probably should not happen again because she was in a serious relationship. His answer destroyed every remaining doubt. He reminded her that being in a relationship had not stopped her the first time. I read that message again, then again. My mind refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. The room suddenly felt unfamiliar. The bed, the photographs, the furniture, and every memory around me seemed to belong to another life. Only a few minutes earlier, I had believed I understood my relationship. Now I did not even know how long I had been living inside a lie. I wanted to believe there was another explanation. But the conversation was clear. They had met secretly. Something physical had happened between them. And afterward, Melissa had continued talking to him while sitting beside me on our sofa. That was the conversation she had been hiding. My instincts had been right. Strangely, I did not shout. I did not throw the phone. I did not march into the bathroom and demand answers. I became completely calm. It was not peaceful calmness. It was the cold feeling that arrives when the pain is too great to process. I took screenshots of the important messages and sent them to myself. I saved everything because I knew that once Melissa realized I had discovered the truth, she might delete the conversation. Then I returned the phone to exactly where I had found it. When Melissa came out of the bathroom, she smiled at me as if nothing had happened. I smiled back. She climbed into bed and began talking about her day. I barely heard a word. She believed we were going to sleep as an ordinary couple. She had no idea that our relationship had already ended. I did not want an argument. I did not want excuses about being confused, feeling lonely, drinking too much, or making one terrible mistake. Cheating was not one accidental second. It required messages, secrets, planning, a meeting, a decision, and more lies afterward. Melissa had made all of those choices while continuing to come home to me. So I made a choice of my own. I was going to leave. But I would not announce it. I would not give her time to cry, manipulate me, hide the evidence, or convince me to delay my decision. Over the next several days, I began removing my belongings little by little. I packed books, old clothes, documents, electronics, and anything she was unlikely to notice immediately. Whenever she asked about a box, I told her I was donating and used things or clearing space. She believed me. Every evening, she sat beside me as though our life was continuing normally. And every evening, more of my belongings quietly disappeared. All I needed was one day when she would be away from the house for several hours. Then my friends would arrive with a truck. We would remove everything that remained. Before leaving, I would place the printed messages on the kitchen counter. No goodbye letter. No argument. No final conversation. Only the truth she had tried to hide. And an empty house waiting for her when she returned. The empty house. For the next week, Melissa lived beside me without realizing that I was already leaving her. Every morning, she kissed me before work. Every evening, she asked about my day. And every night, she slept peacefully while another part of my life disappeared into a box. Keeping the truth hidden was difficult. Whenever she smiled at me, I remembered the messages. Whenever she touched my hand, I pictured her meeting Ryan in secret. Sometimes I wanted to place my phone in front of her and demand an explanation. But I knew that an argument would not change what she had done. It would only give her an opportunity to prepare herself. She might delete the messages. She might warn Ryan. She might start crying and convince me to stay until I became too exhausted to leave. I did not want revenge through shouting or destruction. I simply wanted control over my own exit. So I stayed quiet. I told 3 of my closest friends what had happened. They had known Melissa for years. They had eaten dinner with us, celebrated birthdays with us, and listened to me talk about the future I planned to build with her. At first, they thought I must have misunderstood something. Then I showed them the screenshots. Their expressions changed immediately. My best friend, Ethan, read the messages twice before handing the phone back to me. "You are not staying there another month," he said. "I'm not staying another week," I replied. Ethan offered me the spare room in his apartment until I could find a place of my own. He also owned a pickup truck, which made the final part of my plan much easier. The others promised to help carry the furniture and remaining boxes. None of them tried to convince me to confront Melissa first. They understood that the relationship had ended the moment she chose secrecy over loyalty. All we needed was the right opportunity. It came on a Saturday morning. Melissa entered the kitchen while I was making coffee. "My aunt arrived in town last night," she said. "A few of us are going to spend the afternoon with her." I looked at her carefully. After discovering her affair, I no longer knew which of her stories were true. She might really have been visiting her aunt. She might have been meeting Ryan again. A part of me wanted to follow her and find out. But then I asked myself what another discovery would change. I already knew enough. Finding her with Ryan would only add another painful image to my memory. "I hope you have a good time," I said. She smiled. "I'll probably be back around 6. That gave us nearly 7 hours. It was more than enough. Melissa got dressed, collected her handbag, and kissed me near the front door. "I love you," she said. The words nearly made me laugh. Instead, I stepped aside and watched her walk to her car. She waved before driving away. I waited until her vehicle disappeared at the end of the street. Then I called Ethan. "She's gone." 20 minutes later, 2 cars and a pickup truck stopped outside the house. My friends entered without wasting time. Most of my belongings were already packed and stored in hidden corners, so the process moved quickly. We carried out my desk, computer, clothes, books, personal documents, kitchen items, and several pieces of furniture that belonged to me. Every empty space revealed how much of the home we had built together was actually disappearing. The walls looked larger without my shelves. The bedroom looked colder without my clothes. The living room echoed after we removed the speakers and side table. I had expected to feel powerful. Instead, I felt as if I were dismantling 5 years of my own life. Each object carried a memory. A lamp we had chosen together. A chair where we had once stayed awake talking until sunrise. A suitcase we had used on our first holiday. But the memories no longer felt safe. They had been damaged by a truth I could not forget. My friends noticed that I had become quiet. Ethan placed a hand on my shoulder. "You are doing the right thing," he said. "I know," I replied. "That doesn't make it easy." We finished loading almost everything in a little over an hour. I walked through each room one final time. I checked the closets, drawers, cupboards, and storage area. I did not want to leave behind anything important enough to force me to return. When I reached the bedroom, I saw a framed photograph on Melissa's side table. It showed us standing near the sea during our second year together. She was laughing while I looked at her. I remembered believing that nothing could separate us. For a moment, I considered taking the photograph. Then I turned it face down and left it there. The final step was waiting in my home office. I opened the screenshots on my computer and printed the entire conversation between Melissa and Ryan. Page after page came out of the printer. Their compliments, their memories, their secret plan to meet, and the message confirming that something had happened between them. I arranged the pages in order and stapled them together. I did not write a letter. Anything I could have written would only repeat what the evidence already showed. She knew what she had done. And soon, she would know that I knew too. I placed the printed messages in the middle of the kitchen counter. Melissa always went to the kitchen when she came home. Usually, she poured herself a glass of water before doing anything else. There was no possibility that she would miss them. My keys were placed beside the papers. That was my only goodbye. Before walking out, I stood at the front door and looked back. For 5 years, that house had represented safety. Now it felt like a place where someone had smiled at me while hiding another life. I closed the door behind me. By 2 in the afternoon, my belongings were stored inside Ethan's garage, and my car was hidden there too. We knew Melissa would probably contact my friends after discovering that I had gone. If she visited Ethan's place and saw my car outside, the plan would fail. So we made sure there was no visible sign that I was staying with him. I switched my phone to silent and placed it on the table. Then we waited. At 5:30, Melissa sent her first message. "Are you out somewhere?" She had probably arrived outside and noticed that my car was missing. A few minutes later, another message appeared. "Daniel?" Then the calls began. The first call stopped after several seconds. A second call followed immediately. Then a third. By the time 4 minutes had passed, she had called me more than 10 times. I did not answer. New messages filled the screen. "What is this? Where are your things? Please answer me. I can explain everything." That sentence confirmed that she understood exactly why I had left. She did not ask what the messages meant. She did not pretend they were fake. Her first instinct was to explain. But I had no interest in hearing a carefully prepared version of the truth. The calls continued. Soon, Ethan's phone started ringing. He looked at the screen and showed me her name. "Do you want me to answer?" he asked. "Do whatever feels natural," I said. "Just don't tell her I'm here." He waited until the call stopped. A few minutes later, she called another friend. Then another. By evening, she had contacted almost everyone close to me. She told them I had disappeared and asked whether they knew where I was. They all said no. Technically, most of them did know. But they also knew I was safe. I had not vanished because I was in danger. I had left because I no longer wanted to be found by her. Around 8 o'clock, someone knocked on Ethan's door. The room became silent. Ethan looked through the window. "It's her," he whispered. My heartbeat immediately increased. Melissa's car was parked outside. She had come to the one place where she was most likely to find me. Ethan told me to stay away from the windows. Then he stepped outside and closed the door behind him. From inside the apartment, I could hear only pieces of their conversation. Melissa's voice sounded desperate. She kept asking whether he had seen me. Ethan told her he knew why I had left but claimed that I was not inside. That part was technically a lie. Everything else he said was true. He told her I was safe. He told her I needed distance. And he told her that repeatedly appearing at people's homes would not make me speak to her. Melissa started crying. She said she had made a terrible mistake. She said she needed only 5 minutes to explain. Ethan responded with a question. "If it meant nothing, why did you hide it?" There was a long silence outside. Melissa did not have an answer. After several more minutes, she returned to her car and drove away. Ethan came back inside. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he shook his head. "She looked terrified," he said. I expected that information to make me feel satisfied. Instead, I felt numb. She wasn't terrified when she was meeting him, I replied. That night, Melissa called my parents. She did not tell them why I had left. She only said that I had disappeared without warning and that she was worried about me. My mother contacted me immediately. I told her the whole story and sent her the screenshots. She was heartbroken, but she respected my decision. My father's response was simpler. Do not go back because you feel sorry for her, he said. Feeling guilty is not the same as changing. Over the following days, Melissa tried every possible route to reach me. She called from other numbers. She sent emails. She contacted relatives I had not spoken to in months. She even messaged old friends who lived in different cities. Her messages changed constantly. At first, she claimed it had happened only once. Then she said she had been confused. Later, she blamed Ryan for appearing during a weak moment. Finally, she said that losing me had made her understand how much she truly loved me. But none of those explanations addressed the real question. Why had she needed to lose me before understanding my value? A mutual friend named Sophia eventually contacted me. Sophia had been close to both of us, so I knew Melissa had probably spoken to her. She is falling apart, Sophia said. I needed to make sure you were safe. I'm safe, I answered. I left by choice. I told her everything. Sophia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she let out a long breath. I knew something serious had happened, she said. But I never expected this. She told me Melissa was barely eating, had stopped going to work, and spent most of her time trying to discover where I was staying. According to Sophia, Melissa repeated the same sentence again and again. She needed to explain. Sophia had asked her what exactly needed explaining. Melissa admitted that she had met Ryan and that something had happened between them. However, she insisted that she regretted it immediately. That claim did not match the messages. Someone who instantly regrets a betrayal does not continue flirting with the same person afterward. Someone who regrets a mistake does not sit beside their partner while secretly messaging the person involved. Melissa did not regret the decision when she believed she could hide it. She regretted the consequences after I discovered it. Sophia said Melissa wanted one final conversation for closure. But from my perspective, the printed messages had provided all the closure either of us needed. She had made her decision. I had made mine. Still, the story was not finished. Because as the days passed, Melissa's attempts to reach me became more desperate. And soon, Sophia called me again with news that made me question whether silence was still the right choice. Sophia called me again 3 days later. This time, her voice sounded more serious. Daniel, I think you need to know what is happening, she said. I sat down on the edge of the bed. What did she do? She has stopped going to work. She barely leaves the house. She keeps saying that her life is over. I remained silent. Part of me believed Melissa was finally experiencing the pain she had caused. Another part of me felt uncomfortable hearing how badly she was falling apart. Sophia continued. She says she cannot live without you. Those words immediately changed the situation. I was still angry. I still had no intention of rebuilding the relationship. But I did not want Melissa to harm herself. I'm not going back to her, I said. But please contact her family. She should not be alone if she is talking like that. I already called her sister, Sophia replied. She is going to stay with her tonight. That gave me some relief. Melissa's safety was important, but it could not become a chain pulling me back into the relationship. If I returned because she threatened to hurt herself, fear would replace trust. I might remain trapped every time I tried to leave. That would not be love. It would be emotional imprisonment. Still, I began questioning my silence. Leaving without a confrontation had protected me during the most painful moment of my life. It had allowed me to escape before Melissa could deny the evidence, manipulate the conversation, or persuade me to ignore my own boundaries. But now she knew why I had gone. She knew I had seen the messages. Continuing to hide was no longer giving me peace. It was slowly turning my decision into punishment. At first, I had wanted her to feel the shock of coming home to an empty house. I wanted her to understand what she had destroyed. But hearing that she was losing control made me realize something uncomfortable. There was a difference between leaving someone who betrayed me and enjoying their suffering. The first was self-respect. The second was revenge. And revenge would not repair the part of me she had broken. That evening, I read through the messages Melissa had sent me. There were dozens of them. Some were apologies. Some were explanations. Some were desperate promises. She said Ryan had contacted her during a difficult time. She said the attention had made her feel wanted. She said she had allowed one bad decision to become something worse. She also admitted that she had continued messaging him because she was afraid that suddenly ending the conversation would make him angry or expose what had happened. I did not know whether that explanation was completely true, but it no longer mattered. The basic facts remained unchanged. She had hidden their conversations. She had agreed to meet him. She had betrayed our relationship. Then she had returned home and acted as if nothing had happened. No explanation could make those choices disappear. I decided to send her one final message. Not because I wanted to restart the relationship. Not because I wanted to debate what had happened. I sent it because I wanted to end the situation without becoming cruel. I wrote, "Melissa, I am safe. I left because I read your messages with Ryan and understood what happened between you. My decision is final. I will not continue our relationship, and I am not willing to meet in person. Please stay with your family and accept their support. Do not contact my friends or arrive at their homes. I hope you eventually recover and learn from this, but I need to move forward without you." I read the message several times before sending it. Then I blocked her number. That was the final boundary. I had given her the truth. I had confirmed that I was alive and safe. I had made it clear that the relationship was over. There was nothing else I needed to say. The following morning, Sophia told me that Melissa's sister had moved into the house temporarily. Her family had also encouraged her to speak with a therapist. Melissa had finally called her workplace and explained that she was struggling with a personal crisis. She had not lost her job yet, although she had been warned that she needed to return soon. For the first time since I left, she stopped calling my friends. The chaos slowly began to quiet down. My own recovery was less dramatic. There was no single morning when I woke up and felt completely healed. Some days, I felt free. On other days, I missed her so deeply that I almost forgot what she had done. I missed our routines. I missed the person I believed she was. That was one of the hardest truths to accept. I was not only grieving the relationship, I was grieving the future I had imagined. The home we might have owned. The places we might have visited. The family we had discussed creating. All of those plans disappeared because of choices I had not made. For several weeks, I also became suspicious of everyone. I told myself that no partner could ever be completely trusted. I started believing that betrayal was unavoidable and that every relationship would eventually end the same way. But that belief was another kind of damage. Melissa had betrayed me. That did not mean every woman would betray me. One person's actions could not define an entire group of people. If I carried that bitterness into my next relationship, Melissa's betrayal would continue controlling my life long after she was gone. I did not want that. So I began rebuilding slowly. I found a small apartment near my workplace. It was not as comfortable as the house Melissa and I had shared, but it belonged completely to me. Ethan helped me move in. My friends brought food, assembled furniture, and stayed until the apartment no longer felt empty. For the first time in weeks, I laughed without forcing it. Months later, Sophia gave me one final update. Melissa had returned to work. She was attending therapy and living with her sister while deciding what to do with the house. She and Ryan were not together. According to Sophia, Ryan had disappeared as soon as the situation became difficult. That did not surprise me. He had wanted the excitement of meeting an old girlfriend. He had never offered to carry the consequences. Melissa eventually sent one final apology through Sophia. She did not ask me to return. She only said that losing our relationship had forced her to understand how selfishly she had behaved. She knew an apology could not undo the damage. She hoped that one day I would remember more than the worst thing she had done. I did not reply. But I also did not feel satisfaction knowing she was hurting. By then, I understood that her recovery did not weaken my decision. I could hope she became a better person without allowing her back into my life. Forgiveness and reconciliation were not the same thing. You can release your anger without rebuilding the relationship. You can care about someone's safety while refusing to accept their behavior. And you can leave quietly without spending the rest of your life wishing for their destruction. Melissa's betrayal ended our relationship, but I refused to let hatred decide the person I would become afterward. The greatest lesson I learned was not that trust is foolish. It was that trust must be supported by honesty, boundaries, and actions. Love alone cannot save a relationship when respect has disappeared. And when someone breaks your trust, you do not need to scream, destroy their life, or prove that you can hurt them more. Sometimes the strongest response is simple. Accept the truth. Protect your dignity. Close the door. And keep walking.